14 minutes now after the hour. Let's go overseas to another Fox News alert. Right now, negotiators in Egypt are going at it. They're getting set for peace talks between Israel and Hamas. And President Trump urges all parties to move fast or bloodshed could ensue.
Steve Harrigan is live in Tel Aviv, Israel, with the latest. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Lawrence. President Trump is really putting the pressure on all sides in these negotiations, telling them all that the release of the hostages could come within days, but that speed is of the essence.
The countries of the world, a lot of the countries surrounding Israel, frankly, Muslim, Arab, and many others, have had great meetings with Hamas, and it looks like it's working. So we'll wait for a little while, see how it all turns out.
Will the administration end fire?
It work very, very quickly. I think it's going to go very quickly. The meetings seem to be very good. We'll find out. We'll let you know soon.
A real caution, too, from Secretary of State Marco Rubio about the work that could remain ahead in Phase 2, particularly if Hamas does not decide to disarm, that the real challenges could come even after the hostages are released.
The second part of this, and it's going to be a much tougher part of it, is what happens after that? Who's going to run Gaza moving forward? It can't be Hamas. It can't be a terrorist organization. And the demobilization of terrorism in Gaza is the end goal here in terms of ensuring that this never happens again. That whole place has to be rebuilt. That's not going to happen in 72 hours or 6 weeks. I mean, that's going to take some time. But this is the closest we have been. This is the most progress we have seen.
It could look like Hamas releasing 48 hostages, alive and dead. On the other side, Israel releasing up to 250 Palestinians who are now serving life sentences, as well as hundreds who have been detained in Gaza over the past 2 years of war. Guys, back to you.
All right. Thanks so much. Steve has seen it all, too. So it's been coming up on October 7th, 2 years since the big attack.
Tomorrow.
So they had the exchange. We were just talking about this on Axios. Evidently, the president called up Bibi and said, this is great news. He's like, not really. Hamas, I can't trust them. They always break down. And he said, can't you be more be optimistic?
Don't be negative.
Yeah, don't be so negative. I understand what both sides are saying. You know, the president's like, we have to think big. We got to think about it. There's no alternative. And he's saying, do you know who you're dealing with? Because they got to put down their guns and they got to rescind all rights to run Gaza or West Bank or the Palestinian Authority. And they said, Hamas says, we want to keep our guns, but we'll put our rockets in storage. That's what.
Well, the president is balancing the regional piece because he's dealing with the Arab and Muslim world and trying to keep them in line with this deal. Getting them to agree to this deal is, that is unheard of, to get the full Muslim world and Arab world to agree to that. But to Bibi's point, the Prime Minister of Israel, Hamas has shown no indication that they want to surrender.
Yeah. Well, Jared Kushner is in Egypt. Steve Witkoff is there. Hopefully they can negotiate some sort of a deal. When Rubio was asked over the weekend who's going to run Gaza, because it can't be Hamas, and he said it can't be Hamas. He said it's going to take some time to iron all that out, to set up a group that would govern. He said it'll take time. But he said the negotiations between Hamas and Israel are not yet the end of the war.
You know what? This is, all I can tell you is this. Just keep this in mind. I don't know what's going to happen next. But at a time in which Israel is isolated, the president of the United States is popular in the Arab world, and he's the most popular politician, bar none, in Israel. Think about that. How has he done it? How has he been able to get the Arab world and Israel, who are at odds, together in order to pressure Hamas, even though obviously there's been friction for thousands of years? At this moment, even Andrea Mitchell over the weekend said, I would give him the Nobel Peace Prize if he can pull this off.
Do you think the Middle Eastern countries are eager to change their reputations? And that's why he had, remember when he went over to the Middle East?
I'm going to say something really naive. I think the majority of these governments want to build their economies.
100%.
And I think that Saudi Arabia is changing the curriculum in a whole generation. And I know how angry everyone is, and I get the 9/11 families, but something's changing. And just be open to it. Not saying that all terror is gone, not saying that for a million years, but I do think that they want to start making their people's lives better. And the president working at economic deals gives me hope.
Well, there was, 7 or 8 Middle Eastern countries that supported this.
Including Indonesia.
Yeah,
I mean,
the 20-point plan.
There's talks ongoing, which we hope will be finalized very quickly, on the logistics of that. You know, who's going to go in, what time are they going to be released, how's all that going to work? So that's good news. I think that we are the closest we have been in a very long time to having no hostages held by Hamas, either living or deceased.
Fox News alert right now. There you go. The Secretary of State just telling us the latest. You see plumes of smoke rising in Gaza as U.S. and Israel negotiators in Egypt for today's ceasefire talks, hammering out final details to get all the hostages released and end the war in Gaza. President Trump says talks are moving quickly, and he warns this on Truth Social. Hamas agreed to the deal or face complete obliteration. He's not kidding. Ellie Kohanim joins us now. She served in the State Department during the president's first term. She joins us now. 20-point plan, the Arab world behind. Delegations arrived in Egypt. There seems to be a lot of pressure on Hamas to bring this to an end and abide by all those 20 points. But Hamas pushed back and said, hey, we'll give up our rockets, we'll leave them in storage in Egypt, but we want to keep our guns. Your thoughts, Ellie?
Brian, I think that there is cause for optimism right now because President Trump has put together this incredible coalition. It's a diplomatic coup d'etat. He was able to do it because the president put his own political capital behind what he called the peace board, and that he's the chairman of this peace board. So President Trump has put together the Sunni Arab Gulf states, Muslim states, and Israel all in a coalition with European support. And if there's one thing that there's agreement on, it's that Hamas has no future in Gaza. So my expectation, Brian, is that that coalition that President Trump has put together is going to put tremendous amount of pressure on Hamas. Hamas is out of options, and they are feeling that pressure. So certainly, we know Hamas is a terror organization. They're not going to give up quickly or easily. But I am optimistic that we are looking at a bright vision for Gaza and a pathway to normalization. That is the big picture here. And it is tremendous. As President Trump said, he's talking about a peace for the times, for eternity.
I mean, I could not be more impressed. We're at this point. The president's done the impossible. He's actually got the Arab world behind him, and he's the most popular politician in Israel. And he's got power over both, just not by putting on an act, just by being himself. He even has some of his Democratic critics was praising him over the weekend. So this Khalil Ahaya, he was the one of the targeted in the Qatar attack in Doha. There's a sense that he's there representing Hamas, but he might have only limited sway over the group's armed wing in Gaza. Tell me the truth as you know it. Does the Doha group have control of the fighters in Gaza?
Well, Brian, what we know historically is that the Doha group is where the funding came for the so-called fighters, the terrorists in Gaza. And so if the pressure is put on the political group, the Doha group, as you call them, by Doha, by Qatar, and again, this Arab and Muslim coalition, then I believe that they can therefore put the pressure on the terrorists in Gaza. At minimum, they can cut the funding. And while the Gaza group might have about 6 months of funding, is what we're hearing from the aid that they stole and sold. 6 months of funding is not forever funding, and even that, I believe, could be less at this point. So there's a lot of pressure that the Doha group can put on the fighters in Gaza, and ultimately, the terrorists in Gaza know they are just out of options. The pressure is on them.
And as Marco Rubio said over the weekend, the Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, there's a lot of logistics that happen. You can't just say, here are the hostages and here are the prisoners. Swap. They say that right now, part of the reasons of the Cairo negotiations, this is what gets me optimistic, are to arrange conditions on the ground in preparation for the release of hostages. That includes getting Red Cross in there and everything. And then, of course, those tunnels got to be destroyed. Thanks so much, Ellie. Our fingers are crossed that this ends up the right way. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.